Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
If you're interested in serving on your local Federal Subsistence Regional Advisory Council, the deadline to apply is Friday, February 3rd. Call 1-800-478-1456 for more information.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks again for joining us here at KAKM Studios for Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. Yesterday's satellite imagery showing a storm here rolling northward again, much like it did on Friday there, moving into the southeast interior, weakening rapidly, and the front moving eastward and then hanging up here just to the east of the Panhandle. Also had another system, a much weaker one, that slid on up into the southern southeast coast with much better conditions. Following in behind out to the west, some convective clouds, snow showers, Alaska Peninsula, exiting the eastern Aleutians, and this system moving off to the north, and the next front that pushed into the western Aleutians yesterday, developing to a strong low pressure center along that front, which swung northward today just west of the Pribilof Islands, and a lot of snow, blowing snow gusts 40 to 60 miles an hour from the Pribilofs on down to the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians here out ahead of the front, with some areas of storm force winds along with that. Again, that's in advance of the frontal boundary there. This system lifting northward, and blowing snow diminishing across the Seward Peninsula, and that light snow extending down to the Yukon Delta. Also up with the heaviest amounts on the southern slopes of the western Alaska Range there. And then the trough extending southward, pushing eastward. Some light snow showers, scattered areas of snow showers with that from the Alaska Range and on down toward Kodiak Island. Higher pressure now in over the Copper River Basin. Mostly dry conditions, variable clouds, Gulf of Alaska, all the way up to the Arctic coast. Not too bad up there with light winds. And then the southeast coast here, some snow shower conditions, chillier air moving into the area there. And the forecast for tonight, scattered snow showers over the central, southern areas there, as remnants of upper level trough continues to sort of swing off to the southeast. Strengthening high pressure over the Copper River Basin, now up to 1,036 millibars by 3 a.m. tomorrow morning in the forecast there. But not a lot of gradient with that, so those winds here over the northern southeast coast won't be all that strong at all. But back to the west, pretty nice conditions now. Snow showers should end with that trough, at least probably by midnight, definitely here as the remnants of that moisture just fades away. And then the winds and clouds increase as you head west, and we've got winter weather advisories out for the northern Bristol Bay area, mostly west of Dillingham there, and then winter storm warnings out for the Yukon Delta coast, St. Lawrence Island, again south to southeast winds 40 to 60 miles per hour, anywhere from 4 to 6 inches of snow, give or take there or more, but with the wind, visibility is reduced to near zero at times, and that system and condition will be spreading northward there to the Seward Peninsula, and still some light snow hung up on the south side of the mountains there up to the north, but much lighter. And a little breezy, but the wind's not all that strong up there along the western Arctic coast. But the southerly flow keeping the flying conditions, ceiling visibilities in the VFR categories. Back out to the west, another low here in a trough that keeps snow showers, gusty winds in across the western and central Aleutian areas. Otherwise, pretty nice night here for the Kuskokwim Valley on down toward Kodiak Island, but increasing clouds later tonight, and that system pushes eastward. So rain and snow increasing there for Kodiak, along with the winds. Bristol Bay again ahead of the front, wind field and the snow pushing eastward there. Again, the winter storm warnings continue through these areas, with other zones having winter weather advisories, then improving considerably behind the front. Winds really drop off, precipitation ends, and maybe some clearing here tomorrow afternoon for the Yukon Delta, especially the coastal areas and Nunivak Island. Snow, blowing snow, Kobuk Valley on up across Kivalina, Noatak, Kotzebue, and those areas, Point Hope, Cape Lisburn. Snow increasing along with the wind, and also winds picking up a little bit there on the eastern Arctic coast, but still out of the south, so downsloping off the north slope. Again, good VFR up there with maybe some clearing. Definitely nothing in the way of any flurries or fog expected there. And still this trough condition out over the Bering Sea with areas of snow. Some of that slipping into the eastern Aleutians, but breaking out. Looks like most of the snow showers will stay north of the Aleutians here and possibly west of the Pribilos, but still a chance of snow showers there for the St. Paul, St. George area, even though I don't have it in there. But shouldn't be anything significant, as most of the moisture, the heavier stuff, along with the wind, will be with that low shifting off to the northwest up to about 982 millibars. And then high pressure continuing to rise, central pressure now 1,040 millibars there, but mostly settled in over the Yukon, even the Panhandle. You can see very little gradient at all, either along the coast or over the inside waters, but enough upper level troughiness here, keeping the chance of snow showers in over the southern southeast coast there. But look for clearing as you head up to Juneau, Haines, and then into Skagway. And then the Tuesday outlook, that front really dissipates here over the interior with some leftover snow pushing across the Kuskokwim Valley areas into the Alaska Range and then on down across the Aleutian Range, northeast Bristol Bay. A separate low forms here, drifting eastward to about Fognak Island or the Barrens, and not too strong, but enough to keep some moisture in over Kodiak Island, the North Gulf Coast. That'll circulate in that southerly flow. Chance of snow, best chance, southern Kenai Peninsula. Prince William Sound, less of a chance, say from Anchor Point to Turnagain Arm, Palmer, and the Matanuska Valley. Even the Susitna Valley doesn't look like at this point in time that snow will be that significant if it occurs at all. And maybe some flurries here on the Yakutat area. Otherwise, it's looking mostly clear now for the Panhandle, with winds remaining light. Up to the north, low there northwest of Wainwright. Looks pretty good west to southwest wind conditions. Brisk wind advisories about sums it up for the western Arctic coast. And then those winds becoming west with a pretty good shot of snow and blowing snow swinging in with that trough there into the Kobuk Valley again, Noatak, and then back to about Kivalina. Well, that southwest wind keeps it fair and dry for the eastern Arctic coast and North Slope areas there. High pressure building into the eastern Bering Sea here, dries it out, lighter winds, nothing in the way of precipitation from the Alaska Peninsula all the way to the central Aleutians there. But the next big storm now here moving in and pushing northward much farther to the west. So we've got storm force winds with that and rain with a warmer southerly flow, probably reaching as far east as Adak Tuesday afternoon. Temperatures this afternoon across the Panhandle, or actually we'll start south central Alaska, 20s, upper 20s for Prince William Sound with Whittier 29, Cordova also 29, 25 at Seward, up to 36 out over the water at Middleton Island, 30 degrees in Homeworth, 20 at Kenai, and in the lower 20s for the Susitna Valley, as well as the 23 degree reading at Palmer. Copper River Basin, a little cooler there with Gunsight at 7, Gulkana though up to 19. And out in the west, 30s for the Aleutians, mid to upper. Same thing for the Alaska Peninsula, lower 30s there. Igagik and Pilot Point, 33 over Cape Newenham, and 34 out at St. Paul. Otherwise, Yukon Kuskokwim Delta, mid to upper 20s, and then 17 up at Nikolai. And for the southeast coast, we've got 30s across that area with 37 there at Annette, 36 at Elfin Cove, 38 up at Skagway, and the Tanana Valley, Fairbanks, -1. Otherwise, all the other reporting stations on the chart here were above 0 with Delta at 13. Fort Yukon, 18 above 0, and I guess I lost the northern map. Okay, so lows tonight, generally a little below 0, 5 to 15 or 0 to 10 below. Northway Tok down around -20 tonight, and a little below 0 there on the eastern North Slope. Near 0 for the Arctic coast, milder to the west here into the mid-20s for the deltas and 27 for Nunivak Island. Looks like 20s, Kodiak Island, 20s warm into the mid-30s on down the Alaska Peninsula area, upper 20s for the southeast coast. Highs for tomorrow, coolest here again over the eastern areas under the high pressure, and then southerly flow coming in, temperatures warming into the 40s for Bristol Bay and mid-30s for the Kuskokwim Delta, southern Kuskokwim Valley, lower 30s all the way up to the Seward Peninsula with teens for the Arctic coast. And for flying weather tomorrow, or for tonight, or for tomorrow morning, IFR, St. Lawrence Island, all down the southwest coast here, pushing inland across a good portion of the Yukon Delta, spreading northward into the southern coast of the Seward Peninsula area, and then some IFR here with the southerly flow on the upslope areas of the Alaska Peninsula, breaking out pretty good with just some scattered areas of marginal VFR out to the west and some patchy marginal conditions here over the southeast interior up to the White Mountains and the Panhandle, looking pretty good, mostly VFR. For tomorrow afternoon, that continues, VFR for all of the southeast coast, eastern interior, a lot of VFR conditions, some marginal stuff, western Prince William Sound, IFR on the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range and also over the mountains here to the southwest, Kilbrook, Auckland Mountain areas, IFR, southern coast of the Seward Peninsula, Nulato Hills, eastern Norton Sound, southern slopes of the Brooks Range, good VFR for the North Slope. Pretty good conditions here for all of the Aleutians in the Bering Sea. And for passes, Anaktuvik, or marginal becoming VFR, same forecast for Adigan. And Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR with IFR developing on the eastern approach of both passes. And that same pattern will result in the same forecast for Rainy with, again, IFR developing on the eastern entrance, maybe VFR on out into the valley. And for windy, VFR, possible marginal conditions developing south side, and Isabel, VFR, Montesta, VFR, Tonita, also VFR, Portage, marginal VFR, becoming marginal, and Chilkoot and White, good VFR under high pressure. Freezing levels at the surface here is about the only thing going on, 2,000 feet though, spreading all the way up to St. Lawrence Island. But the 2,000-foot freezing level didn't even make the map here at all. So we got the surface down to Kodiak, up along the coast, back down southeast. And moving on to the upper level wind flow chart, starting at 33,000 feet for a look at the jet stream. Again, well south of the Aleutians, strongly across the Pacific. Takes a turn to the north here at about 100 knots across the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay, all the way up 90 knots out of the south there, right up to the northwest coast. Ridging here over the central and eastern interior, northerly winds at about 70 coming down across Yakutat, westerlies in across the Queen Charlotte. So you can see the trough here, that's keeping that snow shower chance going there over the southern southeast coast through tomorrow. And for the 9,000 foot winds, 50 to 65 knots here, narrow band out ahead of that front and the tight gradient there covering much of the western interior northward of the Brooks Range, diminishing to 15 knots over the eastern interior, northwesterlies 10 to 15, picking up to 25 down across Prince of Wales Island. Westerly flow, Bering Sea and the Aleutians, 20 to 35 knots, maybe up to 40 over the northern Bering Sea, turning south at about 40 through the strait. Much the same, 3,000 feet, same wind speed here, direction, westerlies 15 to 25 for the Bering Sea, maybe up to 30, 35 for the Aleutians. And we've got southerlies again, 35 to 60 knots, strongest just ahead of the front there, right across northeast Bristol Bay. 50 to 55 knotters there up the west side, and then lighter winds as you head east, becoming quite light here over the Copper River Basin and down along the southeast coast. Turbulence, smooth for the Panhandle and possible severe, really from Kodiak Island across the Aleutian Range right up into the maybe southern Kuskokwim Valley with the strong winds. Moderate chop, western interior again edging its way eastward throughout the day. And after the break, I'll return to look at the marine forecast.
I had a friend that used to say, wow, Alaska's cool, man. You can walk outside your front door and die. My name's William Fulton. I usually go by Will or Willie. Fly for Seahawk Air in Kodiak, Alaska. Well, flying a 1953 de Havilland Beaver on floats. Oh, the Beaver is really the best for float plane work, the best airplane ever built, for the kind of things we do. It's big enough to carry a good sized load, but it's yet small enough to handle by one person can handle it on the water, in pretty much any wind. But it's built similar to the cars of that era, lots of metal. You think of how many cars from 1953 are on the road today? Not very many, just real well built and tough. I really don't think too many people here take it for granted. They still appreciate the beauty of the island and seeing the wildlife, seeing whales. The people that live here, a lot of them live here for that reason, and then the tourists. Kodiak isn't really a tourist-based economy, it's commercial fishing, so it's rely on a lot of different things. Oh, the weather here is always a challenge. You have to enjoy it. If you let it bother you, you wouldn't make it here long. But when you're flying or boating, any way getting around, really, you have to be very respectful of the weather. Yeah, weather dictates when you go certain places. A lot of delays, a lot of delays for people that we fly. Even delays on the commercial airlines coming and going from Kodiak. So you just have to be patient. It teaches you patience living here. Something that we're not all born with, a lot of patience. I look at it as a great equalizer, you could have a check for $1 million and we couldn't come pick you up, and that you could be trapped. Kodiak is one of the few places in the world where you can actually still get weathered in. You can get weathered in for days here, where no airplanes, no boats, no way out, which is pretty good, no matter who you are or what you're doing, you may get stuck. What sets flying in Alaska apart is the necessity of it. It's huge. Most of the places on Kodiak Island, there's very little road, so you have to fly or take a boat. It's vital for mail. I've flown mail planes. It's vital for groceries to villages or people living remote. We are a lifeline for freight. I mean, we do a lot of medevac type trips when people get hurt. So we're the first responder in a lot of that. We see good with bad. Unfortunately, I've seen suicides, boat disasters, airplane crashes, a lot of different things as a pilot. You just have to be ready. I guess that's part of it. There's a few different people I drop off where in the back of your mind, you're a little worried whether they're going to be there when you come back to pick them up. So I always hope they are. It's kind of tough when you go to pick somebody up and they're not there. There's not much left of them. Timothy Treadwell, the movie and the event, all that. It seems like a long time ago now, but it seems like just another Alaskan tragedy. There's been a few of those when you think about the Into the Wild story and the Treadwell story, and there's other people doing similar things out there. So it still goes on. Being there when people need you, and that makes you stop and think that, wow, what you do is really important.
People come from all over the world and they just can't believe when they round the corner up here on a busy Wednesday or Thursday and see 10 to 13 of them in a row. It's quite a sight to see. It's really the crossroads of the world. You can go from Anchorage to Frankfurt, Germany in typically 8 to 9 hours. And in Asia, you can be in Hong Kong, or you can be in Tokyo, or you can be in Seoul in 8 to 9 hours using Anchorage as an international gateway. It's the perfect spot for cargo operations to come in. The two aircraft arrive. They're doing a cargo transload. We have just a specific amount of time to make sure that the cargo gets on the other aircraft and we get it out of here. It's not uncommon for us to handle as many as 46 airplanes in a day, and it is one of the busiest cargo airports in the world. I think if you were to narrow it down to, what is probably the biggest commodity, well, I would have to say it's probably consumer electronics, especially the iPhones, the iPads, things of that nature that are coming out of the factories in Asia into North America to hit the retail stores. That's a big item. I've kind of grown up in aviation. I've had an uncle that had a helicopter and flying business called Kenai Air Alaska down in Kenai. He started way back in the early 50s hauling drill bits, and I was a gas boy. So I filled up Super Cubs and helicopters and, kind of grew up around the business. We've basically seen it all. Cars coming from BMW, from Mercedes-Benz, and these are basically top secret. They are hush-hush. They are not even on the market. And they come in and then they're tested in different parts of Alaska for cold weather testing. We've hauled large pieces of oil industry equipment. We've seen sharks, we've seen whales, we've seen everything. But the kitchen sink. There are so many international carriers that serve Anchorage, giving you a whole different perspective on what lies just 8 or 9 hours away. And in many cases, there is a lot of cross-cultural exchange in Anchorage that allows all of us to experience other parts of the world. And I think because of that, we grow richer as a community. And it definitely has a positive impact on me, and we're in a unique advantage that we get to see this.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis, again, not much different from yesterday. Was a little bit of ice growth down here around Bristol Bay, but elsewhere not really too much that you could pick up on looking at this graphic. But with the southerly winds now coming on in, this will probably retreat back to the north, really all the way into Bristol Bay over the next couple of days. And for the marine forecast, small craft advisories out along the southeast coast on the outer coastal areas. North 10, Lynn Canal, pick up to northwest 20 for Clarence Strait. And then for Tuesday, northwest winds 20 knots there, otherwise light northerlies all the way up through northern Lynn Canal. West-northwest 10 to 15 here out along the coast, seas 7 to 9 feet. Prince William Sound tomorrow, east 15, southerlies 15 to 20 for the North Gulf Coast, and east to northeast 10 to 20 for Cook Inlet. Southerlies 30 knots, pretty common here except for the gales in Shelikof Strait. And then for Tuesday, light winds for Shelikof Strait here, just 10 knots, 20 knots for Kamishak Bay, swinging around to the east there for southern Cook Inlet and northeast north of the Forelands. Small craft advisories now in the forecast for Prince William Sound and also for the North Gulf Coast right out of the south to 30 knots also for the Barren Islands, southwest 30 along the east side of Kodiak. Bristol Bay, southeast 40 knots and 40 knot gales here all the way down across the Alaska Peninsula with seas up to 20 feet there on the south side. Storm warnings now Castle Cape to Sitkinak, 50 knot southerlies with 25-foot seas. And for Tuesday, west to northwest, 25 knots, 10 to 14-foot seas, north 15, Bristol Bay turning northwest there, southwest to Sitkinak. And for the Aleutians, Fox Islands, west-southwest, 20 to 25, seas 9 to 12 feet, and small craft advisories here in the central Aleutians, extending back to the west but diminishing out over the far western zone. And then with that next storm coming in, a pretty strong front, so 55 knot southeasterlies there for the western areas towards Shemya, with 50 knot winds extending almost to Adak, up to 45 knots for the central Aleutians, and then diminishing considerably down to just about a variable condition there for the Fox Islands. And the southwest coast, we've got gales tomorrow here, south of Nunivak Island out of the southwest, and then just 15 knot winds north of the island. Then back into the gales for St. Lawrence Island, and southerlies 40 knots. St. Matthew Island, winds coming down to 25 and turning southwesterly for the Pribilofs. And Tuesday's forecast, southwest 20 there for St. Paul and St. George, lighter southwest winds for the coast, and then 30-knot brisk wind advisories here for northern Bering Sea up across St. Lawrence Island. And for the Arctic coast on the east side, southerlies 10 to 20, turning southeast 20 for the central coast, all the way down to the Bering Strait there. And then, of course, gales here from Cape Beaufort down to Wales. And the next day, swing those around, still looking at some gales here. Southwest, 35 knots, picking up to 35 knots there for the west side. Small craft advisories on the central coast that extend all the way over to Demarcation Point. And for tonight, again, strong front moving eastward. Winter weather advisories, snow and blowing snow here in northern Bristol Bay turn into winter storm warnings across the deltas, especially the Yukon Delta at St. Lawrence Island. 40 to 60 knot wind gusts, possibly even higher in exposed areas. Snow, blowing snow, visibility's down to less than a half mile, maybe near zero, spreading up across the Seward Peninsula. And then that front edges eastward tomorrow, bringing those conditions with it. Still a bit improving behind the front there, drying out with maybe some clearing and increasing wind and rain there. Alaska Peninsula heading into Kodiak Island. High pressure holding, fair conditions, eastern interior, north slope. Snow showers linger with an upper trough over the panhandle. And then for Tuesday, that condition is gone. A little bit of moisture may sneak up here around Yakutat, but maybe not. Otherwise, mostly clear for the panhandle. That front really dissipates through here, a weak low. Brings a chance of snow across south central Alaska, Alaska range of the Kuskokwim Valley. Windy with snow up to the northwest.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
If you're interested in serving on your local Federal Subsistence Regional Advisory Council, the deadline to apply is Friday, February 3rd. Email subsistence@fws.gov for more information.
I don't think that what most people think is perfect is perfect.
There has to be emotional attachment. If I perceive there is no emotional attachment, I will create some.